Let's go over Daisy's training so that we can stay consistent at home. So whenever she's offering behaviors that we want to keep on seeing, that could be simply following our commands or staying calm. Anything like that that we want to see more of, we want to make sure that we're rewarding. So that could be with praise, petting, or treats, anything that she enjoys so that we can let her know that we like those behaviors and we want to see them more often. On the other hand, if she's offering behaviors that we don't want to see, that could be maybe jumping on us, being a little mouthy, or breaking any of our commands. We want to make sure that we're following through with our training equipment. That way, we can tell her that we don't like those behaviors and we'll see them less often in the future. So let's go over her training equipment. So this is her prong collar. It's going to be the collar that sits highest up on her neck, so it's going to be right below her ears. So when this is on her, the leash will attach to the swiveling D-ring right here. It can be on her if she doesn't have the leash on, but if she has that leash on, it should be attached to the prong collar. So for example, whenever she's offering any behavior that we don't want to see, we're going to mark it by saying no, and then follow through with a pop and release of the prong collar. So it's not holding tension, it's just a pop and a release. So say she's pulling further ahead of us on walks, or maybe she's nibbling on her fingers, anything like that, we're going to say no, pop, and then continue on with it, whatever we're doing. Whenever she breaks a command, we want to make sure that we try again until she gets it right. So say we walk past something on our walk and she goes to sniff at it, or maybe pulls ahead of us a little bit. We're going to tell her no, communicate with our prong collar, and then try to replicate whatever happened again. So if it's on a walk right past that object again. Or maybe she got up from a sit to say hi to someone. Put her back in that sit, and then once she holds that position, then she can go say hi and greet that person. So trying whatever distraction happened again until she gets it right. That way she can learn from there. So to take the prong collar on and off, easiest way is securing one of these links by holding it and then sliding these two loops up. Once you see those two loops, you can grab right there and then pull it through. To put it back, you'll line those two prongs up with these two loops again, squeeze one end in, and then slide them through. And then this right here is her remote collar. To turn on the remote, there's an L button on the back right here. You're going to press and hold until that light turns on. And then once that blue light flashes, the remote is on. To turn on the collar, there is a little red dot on the side of the collar right there and a matching red dot on the side of the remote. You touch those two together, and then the collar will flash green. Green means it's on. You might also see it flash orange. That just means it'll be needing a charge soon. And then if you touch them together after it's on, it'll flash red to mark that it's off. So this works very similar to the prong collar. So say she's in the house or she's maybe in the backyard. If she's offering any of those behaviors that we don't want to see, for example, being a little mouthy, jumping on us, anything like that, we can tell her no and then follow through with this black S button right here. So no, black S button, and then continue on with whatever we're doing. Once she's offering a behavior that we want to see more of, so say she's jumping on us, whenever she has all four paws on the ground, we want to make sure that we're rewarding that. That way, this is our no marker, and then we can have that positive yes marker, so she knows exactly what we want from her. So if she goes to jump on us or nibble on our fingers, we'll say no, press this black S button, and then continue on with what we're doing. Once she calms down, we can give her attention, love, anything like that. And then this can also be used for any of her other commands as well. So if you tell her to sit down, things like that, if she breaks that command or ignores you, you can use her remote collar as well, which I'll go over in a minute. So let's go over the rest of her commands. So first we have sit and down. Both sit and down have implied stays. So once we tell her to go into either one of those positions, she's not allowed to get up until we tell her her release word, which is break. So for example, if you put her in a sit before you go to open a door, if she gets up when you open the door, or if maybe there's a guest on the other side of the door and she gets a little too wiggly and stands up, we're going to tell her no, using our equipment and getting her back into that position. And then just like I mentioned earlier, whatever got her out of that position, try to replicate it again so that we can make it a learning moment. And then same thing with down. So if she gets up, just put her back and try again until she gets it right. And then if she starts to crawl or move in that position, that's still against the rules. We have to put her back wherever she started. And then next we have heel. So heel means walk right next to me on my right-hand side. With heel, she doesn't have to be in a heel for an entire walk. Usually I only have her in a heel around 80 or 90% of my walk. The other 10 or 20%, I have her in her release command, which is break. So break just means she can do as she pleases within reason. So she's still not allowed to offer any of those behaviors like jumping, being mouthy, licking, anything like that. But she is allowed to go sniff, do her business, free to do as she pleases for the most part. So during a walk, if she's in that heel, she has to be right next to us in that heel position. But if we tell her break, she can still walk in our bubble, but she doesn't have to be in that heel position. She's good to go sniff and do as she pleases. And then next we have place. Place is a boundary stay. So once we tell her place, as long as all of her feet are up on that bed and she's not offering any of those unwanted behavior, she's good to go. So this command is especially great for if you're having people over, maybe you're making dinner, anything that she gets a little too excited about, you can put her on place. That way she has an easier time staying in that position. If she does get up, just like any of her other commands, put her back on there and then try it again until she gets it right. And then we have recall. So recall or come uncalled, whenever we're practicing it, we want to make sure we have her on a super long leash, especially while we're establishing these new boundaries at home. So that way, if we call her back to us and she tries to get away with sniffing for another second or staying distracted, we have a way to reel her back to us, kind of like a fish if we have to. So when we practice it, we'll let her get distracted either by a person, just smelling things, maybe tossing a treat or a toy. As soon as she is distracted and out of our space, we're going to call her back to us by saying come, nice, loud, and firm. Once she starts running back to our space and comes into that sit position in front of us, we can reward her. We can reward her with a treat, praise, a little scratch on the head, anything that we can. And we want to reward her every single time she gets back into our space because we want to be that fun spot. So, for example, if you do have to reel her in like a fish, we still want to make sure that we're rewarding when she gets into our space. That way she understands that we are fun, she still wants to come back to us, and then we can let her go back out and explore after she gets back to us. And then we have leave it. So leave it, also practice on a leash at home. That way you can set that super firm boundary. So whenever you're practicing it, try using a dog-safe toy, treat, something like that. That way if she does get it, it's not the end of the world. And then once she understands the boundary on leash, you can start to introduce it with the e-collar and then rely more on the e-collar than the leash. So when practicing this one, toss it away from her a good distance so she's not tempted just to lean over and grab it. And you're going to tell her leave it loud and firm. Once she's in a sit or a down, we're going to reward her from our hand. And then we can release her to go get the object. Once we release her, she's still not allowed to grab the object until we tell her okay. And we can either give it to her from our hand or just point at it, just letting her know that it's okay to grab now. That is all of her commands. And so now we're going to go watch her do them all out in public.
She's working. Hold on. She's working.
Down. Good girl. Down. 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 Break. Alrighty, let's go over some of the other features of her remote collar. So going back over how to turn it on and off, what you'll do is find the little red dots on the side of the remote and the collar itself. You'll touch them together and that green light will turn on. This light might flash a few different colors. Green means it's on. If you see it flashing orange, that means the battery is low. And then if you see it flashing red, that means you're turning it off or it's dead. So that red, for example, would look something like that. And then green for on. To turn on the remote, that L button on the back, you'll just press and hold it until that screen turns on with her working level. Right now, her working level is level 22. At home, you might have to adjust it depending on what she feels and how her adrenaline is. How you adjust it is you'll twist this knob up here. So right now I have it locked. To unlock it, you'll press and hold. So press and hold until it flashes, and then you can twist to adjust it as you need to. And then to lock it back into place, you'll get it to the level that you want it on. And then you'll press and hold again until it stops flashing. And then if you twist it, it doesn't change. So that's great for if you're putting it in your pocket or on a walk or anything like that. So the remote has a few different buttons. This T on this side is the vibration setting. So if you click it, it'll send that vibrate to the collar. I use this to break up whining, maybe if she's whining in that crate, or to even just see if the collar's on. And then on the other side, you'll see that black S button and the red S button. The black S button is going to be the button that we use most often. So that one's just that level 22 stimulation over to the collar. So if she's offering any of those behaviors, we'll say no, press that black button, and then continue on with whatever we're doing. No matter how long you hold down that button for, it's just going to send one little stimulation to the side of her neck. That way, if it gets stuck or something like that, you're all good. When we introduce it on a continuous setting at a very low level to introduce it in a positive way. So now that she's further in her training, she doesn't need that low level anymore. And so we have it up on momentary, which is where you'll see that M next to that number. That just means momentary. And all she needs is that little stimulation, and that's all. And then that red S button is going to jump up whatever level she's on, 25. So for example, she's on level 22 right now. If I click that button, it'll jump up 25. That one's for emergencies only. So if you're outside on a hike and she's running at something that she really can't have, that could be a road, an animal, something like that, and she's not listening to you, and you've tried that black S button, you can use the red S button. That will match her adrenaline so that she's more likely to feel it. So emergencies only, red button, black button's going to be your everyday use if you need it. On the back, that on and off button, that's that L, is also a light. So if you just press it once, it'll have that flash setting on the collar. If you press it again, it'll have that solid, and then a third time, it'll turn it off. That's a great option for if you're going out at night so you can see where she's at. Next to it is that M/C button. That'll change the setting on the collar. Like I said earlier, she's on momentary now that she's a little bit further down in her training. I would suggest leaving it on that for the time being. But if you need to change it or if it gets changed for whatever reason, you can press and hold until the letters change on the front. And then to turn it back off, press and hold, and then it'll turn the light off and it'll say off as well. And then to turn off the collar, touch those red dots together and it'll flash red and turn off. It is waterproof, so if she ends up playing in some water, getting wet for a longer amount of time, that's totally fine. I would just recommend rotating where it sits on her neck so that it's not irritating any of her skin. And then this collar will be the first thing that goes on in the morning and the last thing that comes off at night. So whenever you're up for the day and she's hanging out with you, you'll have that collar on. That way she has some way to communicate. So if she starts jumping on things or being a little too mouthy, we have a way to communicate with the remote collar if she doesn't have her prong collar and leash on in the house. And then if she's ever in her crate or if you guys are leaving for the day, I would recommend taking it off just so that she doesn't get stuck anywhere. But then when you guys come back home, put it back on her so that we still have that way to communicate. And then at night, of course, you can take it off while she sleeps. Since she'll be sleeping, she won't need it. And then it does hold its charge pretty well and only takes about an hour or two to charge. It should stay charged for a day or so, especially if you have it on her for 12-hour days. I found that usually they stay charged for 2 days around that time. But yeah, super fast charging. And then it does have a 2-year warranty. And then how it goes on her neck is her prong collar will be the collar that's highest up. And then underneath it, you'll have her remote collar. And then if she has a flat collar with her tags, that'll be underneath this one. That way, it's still up there. It's on that sensitive part of that neck, so she can feel it really well. And if you have any questions, let us know. But you are all set to have fun and stay consistent.